Okay, then we'll start now. Just to let everybody know that the webinar is being recorded, so we will put it up online for a later time for anybody else that wants to refer back to it. Just a bit of housekeeping. We've switched the cameras and mics off just to ensure a more kind of less interrupted, I suppose, experience. What we have done is enabled the chat function on Microsoft Teams. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to use the chat function there. And when we get to the end of the session, we'll answer all the questions we possibly can. We'll also gather them and put those into an email and circulate those around to everybody that's actually registered for the webinar. If you haven't actually registered for the webinar via Eventbrite, if I can ask you to do that so we can collect the email addresses so that you can get that follow-up email with all the information on there. Okay, so just a brief introduction. My name's Alex Gates. I'm Managing Director of Simply Certification and Simply Learning. On this session, I'm going to talk through the PAS 2030 process, which will give you an overview of how to gain and retain certification. I've also got Alex Chaplin with me. Alex is our Operations Manager for Simply Learning, and Alex is going to go through the relevant qualifications required around PAS, and also talk about how you can access funding to get those if that's something you're actually interested in. So I'm going to start off myself. So I'll give you a quick overview of who we are for those who don't know us. We are a certification body. So what that means is that we carry out independent, impartial assessments across a range of standards. We are very much around the approach of being collaborative and supportive and responsive to our customers. And basically excuse the music from outside. We carry out assessments that have to be impartial, so those become like robust. So then you get the certifications that we actually offer are actually trusted by a wide range of stakeholders. We offer a wide range of standards. So you can see on the screen there, we've got ISO 9001, which a lot of people would recognise as probably the most common standard around quality. And then there's ranging all the way through to PAS 2030, MCS. We're also a Trustmark scheme provider as well. So what I want to talk to you today is around about PAS 2030. So many of you will already know that there is an actual expanding marketplace around retrofit. And to access that supply of work, you do indeed need to be PAS 2030 certified and Trustmark registered. So I'll talk about Trustmark as well at the same time. So you'd have to be living under a rock not to know that there's a cost of living crisis, that there's a net zero target for 2050, and there's also big issues around mold and ventilation in properties across the UK. And there's a big demand on tradespeople and contractors to carry out energy efficiency works to combat these key issues. There's 24 million homes in the UK that do need to have some sort of retrofit, whether that's an insulation measure, it could be renewable energy. What we do know that 35% of the UK's energy actually comes from homes, and they actually emit 20% of our carbon dioxide emissions. So there's quite a lot of work to be done, and unfortunately there's not enough qualified and competent organisations in the UK to deliver against that at the moment. There's an estimated £300 billion of funding across the UK. There's various schemes. So there's social housing decarbonisation funding. There's various supply chains. I've mentioned Vinci supply chain on there. There's also Waits, a range of other principal contractors that are looking to extend their supply chain under social housing decarb. So they've won millions of pounds worth of work, and they need installers to operate under their framework, and they need to be accredited with the relevant certification. There's things like green rewards, so that's the able to pay market. So if you've got a mortgage, you can go to your lender and ask for a loan. That would be a 0% loan to get a solar panel installed, for example. But the installer, again, needs to be Trustmark registered and have the relevant certification. There's other schemes such as the Eco4 funding, the Great British Insulation Scheme, Home Upgrade Scheme, and Local Authority delivery. Again, all of these schemes require that the installers or contractors actually carry PAS 2030 certification or MCS and Trustmark registration. These are the common issues and concerns that we hear daily. It's simply certification around PAS 2030, and they're understandable. Anybody that kind of works very busy, it's very difficult to kind of work out whether something is the right route to go down and whether it's worth your while. We do hear it's too complicated, people don't know where to start, it's too expensive, and it's just another compliance and certification outgoing. There's a lot of people probably on this call that are registered with people like Chaz, Construction Line, have ISO 9001, and thinking, crikey, another certification that they've got to go through. And also, there's probably a lot of successful businesses on this call again. Why would they bother? Your order books are full for the next 12 months, so why on earth would you want to go down this route? So just take each concern in and talk you through that. It's too complicated. It's actually not as difficult as you may think. I think anything new and that's misunderstood, you can think is complicated. However, we work with a lot of our customers, and one of the key things to make it not complicated is to download the standard, which is actually free now from BSI, actually read it. If I can understand it, I think everybody on this call could. It's not that kind of complicated. There's not a lot of pages to go through. And once you start reading it, you would be able to get your head around it. We do offer awareness training for anybody that kind of wants to get through it quicker. That takes about 3 to 4 hours to go through. That's online. So if anybody's interested in that. The thing is once you've got your process in place, it's repeatable. So it's basically once you understand what it is you need to do, you put your processes in place, it's repeatable. So it shouldn't be complicated. Very, very straightforward. Not know where to start. Again, understandable. If anything new, it can be a little bit daunting. However, there are plenty of experts out there. We're a certification body, so unfortunately, as much as we want to kind of help and guide a lot of our customers, there's a point where we can't, because in effect we can't mark our own homework. So there are plenty of consultants, plenty of systems out there. Again, I can share on the email a link to our website that's got a trusted partner network. So there's consultants, there's systems, there's a whole host of things that you can tap into to get you through that process. It's too expensive. It's again, yes, there is an outgoing cost to be certified, and if you do need some additional help. But to be quite honest, your return on investment's pretty quick. The payback is normally within 1 or 2 installations. So it's very quick. And the costs won't escalate. If you're a small business, the costs will be in line with the number of installs that you carry out. And in terms of if you're growing as a company, it's because you're becoming, your revenues are growing. The costs will slightly go up there because we'd have to carry out more inspections, which I'll talk about in a moment. But at the end of the day, there would be is a good strong return on investment on that. And the other thing is, why would you bother? You've got your order books full for the next 12 months. But as an ex-business consultant myself, I would always be pushing businesses to future-proof their company. You have to think ahead beyond 12 months. It's a company here where I was thinking 3, 4, 5 year ahead of what we're doing, and it's something I would strongly advise everybody else to do as well. So we have got this net zero deadline approaching. There is an absolute need for more people within the UK supply chain to become more competent, more organisations to get the certification. And there's not just the domestic marketplace, there's also commercial properties. So there's a standard called PAS 2038 that is increasingly becoming more popular. So a lot of facility management companies, those who look after buildings, landlords, are looking for installers that operate under PAS 2030 and MCS. To operate under their frameworks to get their larger buildings such as hospitals, schools, colleges, etc., to be retrofitted with energy efficiency measures. So how do you get there? So I'm going to talk through how you get assessment ready and what that assessment certification process looks like. Just quickly as well, we do have a full checklist available. Again, that'll be in the email everybody that's registered with Eventbrite will get. So the three key areas of insurance is public liability, employer's liability, and professional indemnity. I'm sure most organisations have that in place already. It's not up to the certification body to advise what level of insurance that you do have. That would be up to your insurers. So you speak to your insurers, provide the scope of works that you deliver, and they would advise you the level of insurance required in terms of the size of your company and your risk. There's also, if you do use subcontractors as part of PAS 2030, you have to make sure your subcontractors do have those relevant insurance and the right levels as well. So that is something that you would need to look out for. And the third thing is what they call an insurance back guarantee or an IBG. There's plenty of providers out there, Quality Mark Protection you may have heard of. They work closely with Simply Certification. There's providers there available on the Trustmark website, but that basically ensures that the consumers, the homeowners and tenants and whatnot are protected in the long run. So it just means if your business isn't there anymore in, say, 3-4 years' time and there's a problem on the installation, it means that customer's protected. So you do need to have that in place also. One of the biggest areas that you do need in place, and that we do find that some organisations start getting a little bit daunted with, is a quality management system. And you'd probably be surprised that you may already follow and have some sort of quality management system in place already. It just may not be formalised. So basically, the system needs to be in line with PAS 2030. A management system is basically a collection of business processes which are focused around meeting a standard. So you may have an ISO 9001 quality management system already in place, which is great because it just means that you just need to do a little bit additional work to that to get some of your processes and procedures in place to make sure that you're adopting the PAS 2030 process. If you don't have a management system in place and you're thinking, where do I start? Again, there's already the systems out there. There's Trade Engine, Easy Green Deal, Green Hub. So a whole host of systems out there that are suitable for businesses large and small that you can access. So they're online, easy to kind of adopt. And we've got again that list of trusted partners on our website. So if you do want to speak to somebody, you've got a point of contact there. The format of what your management system's in place is entirely up to you. It's just how your business operates. So you could have that within a Dropbox folder, could be in Google Drive. It could be, again, on something online out of the box. But the idea is that you have a system that you work towards and that you embrace as part of your culture around the installation of PAS 2030. Competency is a big area for PAS 2030, so you have to make sure your installation team, whether they're employed or subcontracted, have the relevant recognised qualifications in line with the measures that you are installing. Alex Chaplin will explain a little bit more about how you can access the things like the NVQs that you may have heard about in terms of under like a funded programme. So the relevant installer competency. So if you are installing insulation measures, for example, external wall insulation, cavity wall loft, there are NVQs and building treatments and insulation. It has to be, the standard does state it's either, depending on the measure, 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 of your team needs to have that NVQ. What we'd recommend is a certification body that you don't just have one person that has it, because if that person's off sick or leaves your company, you are then not compliant. So you're much better off slowly and steadily building up your installers to have the right level of qualifications and investing in that. For glazing, again, there's a glazing NVQ or to be carded by a CPS scheme such as Fencer. Electrical measures such as the electric storage heating, the installer needs to have at least the 18th edition, and for gas, any boiler measures need to be gas safeguarded. Some of you have probably heard of the PAS 2035 and the retrofit coordinator role, and that sometimes causes a little bit of confusion. Some people think PAS 2035 has replaced PAS 2030. It hasn't. It's basically an additional standard that interlinks with PAS 2030. And the main role is a retrofit coordinator. So that person oversees the assessment design and the installation, or that the installers will be doing. So the installation has to be overseen by this retrofit coordinator, and that retrofit coordinator has to have a level 5 in retrofit coordination risk assessment, and they need to be registered by Trustmark. That role is usually provided by the principal contractor or on a larger scheme. It should be an impartial role. However, there are installers that are slightly larger, do employ somebody direct, but 9 times out of 10, that PAS 2035 retrofit coordinator comes from an external company. So whether they are a consultancy or whether if you're working as part of a larger supply chain, or working for example, like a council. So you would need to understand who is fulfilling that retrofit coordinator role. So the assessment and certification process, I'll just take you through that. The first stage is to apply. We have again, there's a link there that I will share with everybody. So that application gathers all the relevant details of your organisation. So it's all your company details, any current certifications that you already have, your subcontractors, employees. So it gives us a good idea where you are, and then it gives us an idea about being assessment ready as well. If you look to us that you are not assessment ready, we wouldn't want to take you through the process. So we would be honest with you for you to go away and look to implement and become assessment ready before you went through the process. So we do have a self-declaration checklist that all of the customers complete to make sure that they've got everything in place before they move to a head office assessment. So a head office assessment, it's not as scary as I think people sometimes think. It lasts around about 1 day. You'll be allocated one of our friendly assessors. As I said at the beginning of this call, we pride ourselves on being collaborative, supportive and responsive. Our assessors are based across the UK, and you certainly won't feel like you're being policed or being kind of anybody looking for mistakes. They're very friendly, very supportive. Obviously, they can't advise and they can't consult, but the experience is generally a very, very good one. The assessment is focused around that quality management system, so what we call a paperwork assessment. That's looking at your processes and procedures to make sure that you are indeed aligned with the standard. It's done usually on Teams, so we don't necessarily come out to your head office. However, if you wish us to, we can. Some of our larger clients do request that they want to kind of meet the assessor, and it just brings probably more of a kind of a good relationship experience. So we're more than happy to come out on site, but I can understand the smaller businesses are happier to have that session on Teams. So basically, the idea of this session is to look to make sure that you are meeting the requirements of PAS 2030 through the evidence in your quality management system and making sure that you've got the relevant skills and knowledges to meet that standard. One of the things Simply does in our scheme, which is some of the things that we'd identified we don't believe that other certification bodies do or that they haven't done in the past. If you are new to the retrofit market and new to the scheme, you end up in this situation is how on earth can you present a technical job for us to inspect if you haven't got the job because you haven't got the certificate. So we've got a capability and competency assessment that when you go through the application process, if you've got no jobs that are being currently delivered under PAS 2030, there is still a route through for you. And we use this capability and competency assessment, which breaks that chicken and the egg issue that I think a lot of people feel. So we can only do this if you have no installers due to be commissioned, and no installations due to be commissioned. It's the only time that we can do that. What we do is we allocate additional time during the head office assessment, and then we talk through with you in more detail around the technical aspects of installation of the measures that you've chosen. So that ensures that we are confident that when you do come to do a job, you have indeed got the technical competence within your organisation or supply chain to deliver that measure. The technical inspections will be done once installation work has started. So we're very strict around this. What we don't want is everyone thinking they can go down this route because it's quicker and then get the certificate and we'll never see them again. That's not the case. You have to sign a contract to say that as soon as you have an installation that you're doing, we come out and we check the installation after the matter. So that does stay open until that's closed out. So the technical inspection, we do one full technical inspection. That means pre, mid, and post against each measure, unless it's something like heating controls, where it's obviously post inspection. We need to carry out. So you have your head office we want to carry out the technical inspection within 3 months of that head office assessment, unless of course you're not installing, you haven't got a job lined up yet. So what we do is to say you will sign a contract to say that you would inform us as soon as you are installing, and that you would be happy for us to inspect within 3 months of the head office assessment. So most measures, as I said, for PAS 2030 need to be assessed pre, mid, and post. We do want to carry out the inspections at location. So that means at site. We will collect as much evidence as possible. We are sensible. There may be a case if a job hasn't quite finished and we can't carry out the post inspection at that point. We will either reprogram that in to come out when we're nearby, or we might collect the evidence via video or a live video or photographic evidence. But we do try and kind of keep that quite tight. Any paperwork that you do have for that inspection, we have an online portal that you would upload all of the relevant paperwork at least 48 hours. So it makes the lives of our assessors a lot easier. As you can imagine, they're doing hundreds of inspections. So it's just, if they've got the paperwork prior to them going into the property, it makes your life and the lives of our assessors easier and the experience a lot smoother. So the certification for PAS 2030, it's a 12-month certification, and that will be issued as soon as you go through the process. All the non-conforms are closed out, and we've got evidence around, like we talked about, the insurance and etc. What we do is we carry out, so that people don't actually realise this, you're getting 2 for 1. We carry out a trust mark audit at the same time. So we collect evidence around your customer charter, your customer complaints, how you handle vulnerable customers as part of that. So it allows us to issue a trust mark certificate also. So then that allows you to carry out the installs under government funded schemes. So your organisation will then be added to the Green Deal Orb and trust mark. So as part of the PAS 2030 standard, once you gain certification, that doesn't mean we don't see you for another year. Unfortunately, you're stuck with us. So what happens is, as part of your certification agreement, you have to undertake regular surveillance to maintain that certificate. And that starts straight away. We don't leave it 11 months down the line and then have to carry out a whole host of inspections. We want this to be pain-free as possible. So what we do is we calculate from your audit report, you'll be put on a risk-based score. So you'll be given either 1 to 10% of your installations will need to be inspected during that first 12 months. So for example, if you are installing 300 installations, we will want to check If you're on 10%, we want to check 30 inspections. Now, an inspection is pre, mid, and post, so that would be 3 inspections. So we could come out and do three inspections in one go. So it's not as onerous as you think. If you are an installer that installs quite high volume, we certainly work with our customers that we put them on a program straight away. So we are carrying out, 3 or 4 inspections every month. And that just kind of makes it a lot easier to plan out, and you're not running around last minute and facing a huge certification bill at the end of the year. So you are required to submit your installation updates at the end of each week. We also have access to various portals, so we can actually check those numbers as well. So once you hit the threshold of needing 3 inspections, pre, mid, and post, we will arrange then to carry out the surveillance with you. So, you can see straight away, you would need to, you probably hit, if you were on 1% of a risk-based score and you're carrying out 300, you'd have to carry out 300 installations before we even come out for that surveillance. So you can see it's not as onerous as you actually think it would be. So the benefits of PAS 2030, you can qualify to deliver under various schemes, like we mentioned, the Great British Installation Scheme, EGO4, the Social Housing Decarb Funding, become part of a framework for larger principal contractors. So the other beauty of working with us, we work with the likes of Waits, Vinci, Mears, Kia. So we also, at the end of certification, we will pass on your details to the larger principal contractors, and they'll make direct contact with you to take you through a process that can then allocate you to work with them under their supply chain as well. So there is a strong return on investment in this. We don't just leave you with your certificate. We do want to try and help you get that work as well. It future-proofs your business, like I mentioned. I think it's so important not just to look 12 months ahead. The demands to have PAS 2030 to be Trustmark registered is high. So, and it's only going to get kind of like a stronger need in the future. It instills trust and confidence in your business. So having Trustmark registered, that is, consumers are recognising that now. The banks, building societies are recognising that. So if you've got that badge, it does actually send a strong signal out that you do deliver high quality works. Obviously opens up a lot more opportunities for you. So you become part of various different registers and members. So people could find you via our website, they can find you via Trustmark, they can find you via the Green Deal Orb, so that you become more visible to consumers looking for installers in your area. And you access that growing market space. So there is a huge amount of benefits there. So there is, I'm going to send some links over to you via email, and then you'll get those of just the partnership networks, the checklist, the application form. So everything will be detailed in there. But if I can just say, if you haven't already, if you can just register via Eventbrite, and then that'll make sure that you do get the email. I've just seen for our AWI installers, they are all Weber accredited and carded. Would they still need to have the AWI NVQ? I'm guessing Weber is a product. If that's the case, yes, they still would need to have that NVQ in place. But that question's coming quite nicely, because Alex can talk you through the NVQs, and that there's actually money out there, so the NVQs can end up not costing you anything anyway. But I'll pass over to Alex, but I'll capture that question. I'll answer it properly in an email later as well.
Hello, I'm Alex Chaplin, and I'm the Operations Manager here at Simply Learning. I just want to talk about all of those awarding organisations that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there. These are the awarding organisations with who we work with. There are this many because we choose to work with the best in the industry and the most well-known in the industry for the various areas in which we deliver training. We're a very well-established training provider. We've been trading for over 20 years now, and historically we've been delivering predominantly commercial courses, but more recently we've applied for and have been very successful in receiving funding to deliver some of our portfolio funded. We were acquired in August 2023 and rebranded to Simply Learning. There's a synergy between certification and training, and we want to join up the needs of organisation-led certification and employees' competency, providing an easier route to compliance. This is our site in the northeast of England, which consists of 8 classrooms and several practical training areas. We have a purpose-built confined spaces unit, a warehouse with classrooms, streetworks set up for excavations and reinstatements, and a test centre for CSCS tests. Whilst we do have 8 classrooms with a capacity for over 100 candidates, we can deliver training on site for both classroom theory-based courses and the practical courses, which is particularly useful if you'd like a more bespoke delivery or a closed course. We offer remote training, online training, which is tutor-led, and these consist of IOSH Managing Safely, the Home Decarb courses that I'll come on to later, and many others, including theory elements of manual handling, fire awareness and asbestos awareness. Just to reiterate that at the moment they are tutor-led. We believe that this is you're getting, you're not flicking through a series of screens and not getting anything from the training. You will have an expert tutor there on your computer screen. This is the core areas of training that we provide. So we have low, medium and high risk confined spaces, including managing the confined spaces and rescue and recovery. All new roads and streetworks act courses, including reassessments. We have SHEAR courses in gas and water, and then all of your more generic health and safety based courses such as first aid, working at heights, manual handling. We offer plant training, forklift truck, telehandler and slinger signaller, to name a few. But what we're here for and what I want to talk to you more about is this funded training. So we have PAS 2030 relative qualifications, which are up to 50% funded through the Home Decarbonisation Skills Training, or up to 100% funded if you're a member of the CITB, which I'll talk to you about in just a moment. We've got level 2 and level 3 NVQs in building and insulation treatments. Now this is assessment based, where you'll work collaboratively with your assessor. We want to work with you to find out what you've recently done, what evidence you can already provide us with, and whether we can map anything over to what we call recognised prior learning. We don't want to waste your time. If you've already got a certificate, a recognised certificate in manual handling, for example, in which both of these level 2 and level 3 qualifications require, then we'll sort of tick that box to say you've got it. We won't spend a lot of time going over and asking for evidence of manual handling. We have the level 3 award in energy efficiency for older and traditional buildings, and the level 2 award for understanding domestic retrofit. Both are 2-day courses, they're online, and again, they are tutor-led. And there is a multiple choice exam at the end of those courses. It's easy to apply for these courses. Our team will talk you through it. You can reserve a spot online and we'll provide you with a link at the end. But essentially, we want to ask you a couple of basic questions just to ascertain eligibility. Basically, the eligibility is if you live and work in England and if you're 18 plus. We'll ask you to fill out a couple of details. This is the candidate form, which asks for a few more details and a copy of your ID. And then, as simple as that, we arrange for a date and book you on the course. With regards to the CITB levy and the grant scheme, so if you're in the construction industry and have employees and subcontractors, you are required by law to register with the CITB. It is designed to ensure that British construction industry has the skilled workforce it needs. But essentially, the funds that are collected through the levy are ploughed back into the employers to help for training and funding for courses. Once part of the scheme, you can apply for grants, and this can top up funding for the retrofit courses. So, for example, for the short qualification grant, There's a short form that you need to complete through the CITB website. We'll provide you with a link again. And you've got up to a year to do this, and you can receive £600 back. So therefore making your level 2 understanding domestic retrofit fully funded through the home decarbonisation skills training and through the CITB. For other courses like Streetworks, for example, you'll automatically receive a cheque back in the post, providing that you give your training provider your levy number and providing that they are recognised through CITB like ourselves.
Okay, thanks, Alex. I think there's a question there. Can I just ask, what is the awarding body for building insulation treatments? We operate under NOCN, so it's accepted. And if you have got that level 2 or 3 under ProQual, that's sufficient, absolutely. So that's absolutely fine. Okay. So the actual links there, we will send those over to you. Is there any other questions that anybody would like to have if you want to throw on the chat? But you can have there's access to a gap analysis one of our trusted network partners have actually provided. It's free. So you can actually click on that and then you've complete a few questions on there and then you get a report back to say what's missing. Our checklist and application form is there as well. The checklist basically goes through all the elements that we talked about that you've got in place step by step. So you can kind of make a checklist against that to understand whether you're ready. As Alex mentioned there, you can book a slot to apply for funded training. Our dedicated person's Katie Nicol. So you can access her diary and basically she will take you through the application. So rather than trying to struggle on doing it yourself, she can talk you through that at a book slot. It'll take about 10-15 minutes of your time. And then that just means the application's in and done. And the CITB levy, there's a link there which Alex mentioned. Again, CITB levy, if you are operating within construction, you haven't registered with that, you really should. And then, there is a small levy fee that you do have to pay. But I mean, just to give you an idea, if your wage bill was over it was 300,000 a year, you're looking at around about £1,050 levy. But the amount of funding that you can get off the back of that will just totally override that. You'd more than get that back 10, 15, 20 times. So it is definitely worth doing. What is the cost for IBT for fully funded? Or is that the NVQ? So the cost would start from 1,100, but you would get that back at the completion. You get the half of it back at the completion of the NVQ, and then if you're CITB funded, you would get the remainder of that back. So yes, it would be fully funded. There was something at PAS 2030 through Milton Keynes or other specific areas. Has that now stopped? I'm a bit unsure. I'll look into that for you. It was about 2 years ago and that was to go through the actual training aspect. It wasn't actually for the certification costs from what I remember. So what you'll find is funding very, very rarely covers actual certification costs. It'll always cover training, consultancy. So if you need help to get a management system in place, there's sometimes various pockets of funding in your area. So you can maybe approach your council or your combined authority that looks after your area to see if there's any funding available there to get you to a place where you are ready. Alex, for the technical inspection, do you need to see the job at pre-mid and install stage or just evidence of the paperwork? And do you come to carry out the technical portions? So ideally, Alex, we do try and do things the right way. We have to be sensible. So for example, if it was an external wall insulation, it was going to take 2 weeks to do from start to finish, then we'll have to be a bit sensible about that. So we'd want to, come at location for at least pre and mid. And then, if it's going to be completed or if you've got another job that's finished at post, we can inspect that. So it doesn't have to be the same job. So we would try and work with you to get as much evidence collected at location, but we understand that you have to be sensible. The idea is that we pick up more and more evidence as we go on anyway. So I hope that answers your question. Is there any other questions? So I'll take that as a no. As I say, we'll collect the questions. I'll reiterate the answers in an email. Again, if I can just reiterate it you need to register through Eventbrite. If you can't because it might have closed by now, you can send your email address to me, alex@simplycertification.co.uk. And then we will then send over the information from that address. Just another questions. How much does additional measure cost on top of the £1,400? That includes one measure. Depending on this is for the past 2030, I'm guessing. That each additional measure can be 495, but the way that we work it is that we bundle the inspections in one go. So if you've got, say, 4 or 5 insulation inspections to carry out, rather than charging £495 per measure, we wouldn't do that. We would look to inspect them all in one day. So we try and kind of do it as a day rate for you, because we can see how costly this can be. So what we do is we allocate an assessor for you to come out, carry out all the technical inspections all in one day. So say you can have 4 measures. So instead of charging, my maths is terrible, instead of charging £2,000 for 4 measures, we would charge 850, because we try and kind of get them all done in one day. So that works out a lot less. So it's about £200 per measure. And the lead times to come and get certified, I do believe I'll get wrong off the bookings team if I give you a date now. I think there is some availability in back end of February, March, in terms of the lead time. In the $64 million question is how long it takes. Now, that is entirely up to you and how ready you are. We have had customers through our doors that have waited 7 to 8 months off of their certification bodies. We've had them through our process in 7 days. But that was because they were absolutely 100% ready, and all the kind of the universe lined up, the stars lined up for them. But I would say probably the length of time, realistically, you're looking at 4 to 6 weeks. To kind of from your booking of your first head office assessment, if that includes a technical inspections and to completion. But again, that's all around if you're ready. If you've got a whole host of non-conformances and you're taking ages to come back to us, that slows things up. Thank you very much. So the session has been recorded, but that'll get put up on YouTube, and we will circulate the slides also. And thank you very much for your time. I really hope that was useful for everybody. And we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.